everyone, and welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails, the weekly podcast that helps you grow your business, improve your life, and enjoy yourself along the way. I'm your host, Alan Langer, and every week we try to bring you the best thought leaders, the best business leaders, and the best minds out there to help you succeed in business and in life. So sit back, relax, grab your pad, your pen, and your favorite beverage, and enjoy the next episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. This is your host, Alan Langer. We are at episode 36. 36 coming up today. We are in the new year, 2021. While this was recording, it was not 2021, but I am guessing that by the time this comes out, things are probably looking a little more rosy than they were at the end of 2020. Let's pray that that's happening. But I've got a great guest today with an awesome Southern accent, and she's my kind of guest, and I'll tell you why in a second after we introduce what we're both drinking. But I have Cantey today, a leadership coach, phenomenally successful person, and I can't wait to introduce her and we can get into our conversation. But before we do that, just a couple of reminders. The website is marketingandsalespodcast.com. That's marketingandsalespodcast.com. On the website, there's the contact section, and you hit that section to send me a question for the Ask Alan segment of the podcast. If we pick your question, and we've got a question from Brittany today from Washington State, if we pick your question to be read on the air, you get a free signed copy of my book. So get those questions in. I got a lot of great questions. I've got some from all over the world. I love reading them. And usually I have a question that'll pertain to the guest I have on that show. Okay, so without further delay, Cantey, welcome to Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today, Alan. I'm really looking forward to this.
I love it. Thank you for being here. This is a lot of fun. So Catherine completely endeared herself to me about 3 minutes ago because when I'm recording this, usually I do this at night, but we had to do this at 4:00 in the afternoon. So I'm like, I think I'll have a glass of wine. So I poured myself some Chianti. And she's like, Chianti, what do you got?
I have some Angel's Envy today. So we're doing a little bourbon from Kentucky.
So you're in Kentucky, right?
Well, I'm in South Carolina, but I have clients in Kentucky and we got to support clients.
Absolutely. So she's like, I'm having some bourbon. I'm like, you know what? So am I. So I poured myself a little Jim Beam on the rocks. So cheers. There's a virtual cheers.
Cheers.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So Catherine's a leadership coach, but she also has a lot of sales background, and she just knows how to help people be successful is the best way I can describe her. In her bio, she rates that she's a tenacious connector and also a recovering banker. We're going to find out what that means in a minute. So she helps potential managers turn into senior leaders and, again, be more successful. So, Catherine, rather than me blabbing and trying to get this right, why don't you tell us about how you got to where you are and what was the reasoning behind some of your success?
Thank you so much, again, for having me. And just to kind of recap, 20 plus years, I started out in banking, started as a bank teller, moved into treasury banking, and had a lot of opportunities to help other people grow their business, and traveled around the Southeast with a commercial bank. And then from there, I moved over to another bank, Farm Credit. Learned all about farming and whiskey and row crops and livestock. So I have to give a shout out to my friends in Kentucky. So spent 7 years with them and basically provided huge lines of credit and all the technology that they needed to run a successful business. And throughout these 20 plus years, I've been sitting in boardrooms, working with leaders around the table and learning what their needs are, learning what the customer's needs are, and then figuring out what that language needs to be between the two in order to create positive change. And I kind of simplify things, but what the backroom operations is doing, we need to understand what they're able to do. And then we also need to understand what the client's willing to pay for, and we bridge that stuff together. So I was just speaking with a lady earlier, just a few minutes before our call, and she's starting up in a fintech environment and is having to bring together a lot of people who aren't used to talking to each other within a financial institution. And everybody's got great insights, but everybody's not sure where the goal is. And a lot of the success that I've had was just creating small success and momentum over time. And that allowed me to have more opportunities and be able to close more deals. But it's not about closing deals. It's about helping people, because people have true struggling moments and they have a struggle that needs to be solved. And the struggle can be within banking. The struggle can be within their leadership, within their career. The struggle can be, pretty much anywhere, maybe in a community where you want to be able to create some positive influence. So I've been able to use pretty much the same approach over and over again. And I learn from my mistakes and try to tweak it going forward. I had a lot of wonderful success in corporate America. I'm forever grateful for it. I love my network. And about a year ago, I stepped out and I kind of retired from banking. So I joke that I'm a recovering banker. Because I've been in banking for so long, I'm driven by the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. So what I love about this particular method of leadership coaching is, where else can you get measurable leadership growth? So when I work with a leader, a high potential leader, this does not work for everybody. If this person you have identified for coaching is already doing a poor job, it's not going to work. So we just need to cut the losses while we can. I know that's kind of abrupt, but we're going to work with high potential people that we want to retain. And when we work with them, they identify what skills they want to work on. They involve their stakeholders, which is having to have some courageous conversations and have that courage and discipline and humility to get this feedback. And then through a process of 3 to 6 months and engaging these people in these conversations, you can help shift their mindsets of where they once saw you to where you want to be seen. And this past year, as I stepped out of corporate and started doing this full time, all the clients that I've worked with, they have created 100% measurable results as seen by their peers, not by me. So I think it's real important that this is not about what I'm doing. This is just helping other people continue to grow and to continue to further their careers. And it's been very rewarding. So 20 years of banking and learning and creating change, and then actually applying it and being able to share it with folks that are in the job market today and helping them with their careers is actually a win-win. It helps them, and it helps me apply what I have learned. It allows me to be reflective, to see what we can do to tweak it going forward. And I think the world needs more leaders, and this is one way to do that.
So let's go back a second. You mentioned that you've obviously cut your teeth in banking. You were in 20 years in banking, and you said something that made me think. You spent a lot of years in the back boardrooms. What I think of when I hear banking and boardrooms, I hear a bunch of old white men sitting around the table, and here you are, a young woman. Was that the case? And if it was that intimidating? And how'd you get over that?
It was 100% the case that it was pale and male. And I've always, you want to know what the other side of the table is saying. They're saying another pale and male room. So I have been an advocate for diversity in the boardroom, and diversity in committees, diversity in everything, in experience, in color, in thought, in everything. The world is becoming more diverse. And what gets to me is, I sat in a room of 1,000 board of directors for a bank, multiple banks, and they're all 65 and male, and they're all in agreement that we need more diversity, but they're not in agreement with it was going to be them that was going to help make that change. Wow. So just to throw another flavor in there, when I was hired at that particular bank 8 years ago, I was the second female in 100 years ever hired for that position. And I remember my first meeting when I went in for my team meeting, and I'm a member on the team. And I remember like it was yesterday, one guy looked at me and he said, "You can't sit in that chair. That's where I sit." And I thought, this is going to be a long road if this is what we're working with.
And he also, we're in a movie.
And he clarified, you can't have these clients because these are the ones I want to go see. And I know they're going to assign you some clients, but if they give you these, you need to decline those because those are my people. Basically, it was the warm weather, and he wasn't giving those up because that was his vacation. So, gosh, it was just crazy. And it wasn't even that long ago. So as far as being intimidating, it started at a young age on how to just get over things like that.
Mhm.
And I remember being elected the president of a spirit club, the largest spirit club, my sophomore year in high school. And I had to stand up in front of, a group of 17 and 18-year-old students, juniors and seniors, and try to lead that organization and create change. And through consistency and small successes, we were able to turn it around. But that scared the death, out of me, just thinking about having to go through that. But building on that, I was the only female on the guys varsity golf team from 8th until 11th grade. And then my senior year, we had a girls
really?
golf
I'm
team.
coming out to golf with you then. That's happening.
My golf game is not so good, but
Okay.
oh, it was tough. But yeah, I guess if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And I know these are just like small things, but being in 8th grade and going out to play with the varsity guys on the golf team and the only female, and you play from the men's tees.
Yeah. Wow.
It just you suck it up and learn to deal with it.
Yeah.
So lots of opportunity to overcome things. So a boardroom that was air conditioned with drinks and snacks really didn't seem that bad compared to playing golf with these high school seniors.
So I love stories like this because, it's interesting. Like, I have a podcast now. I'm 30 something episodes in. So I've got a little, experience under my belt here. And, I have a tougher time finding strong, successful women to be on this podcast. I get a lot of pale and males wanting to be on this podcast. So thank you for doing that. But do you think it's attributed to some of the females not wanting to put themselves out there? Like it really is. I don't say it's a struggle, but it definitely it's a little more effort for me to find folks like you, again, successful, strong, confident women to be on this podcast.
I think they're out there. I think they're finding their way, and when they're ready, they'll stick their hand up in the air and say, "Let's do this."
Yep.
I take a lot of, I guess, calculated risk. I have ways of reaching out to people that are comfortable for me, and my coach kind of jokes with me. She's like, let's talk about this because you're crazy enough that you might actually reach out to some people and try this. So. I try different ways to reach out to people, and I've actually enjoyed the podcast. This started out doing a podcast with a friend out of Tennessee just to talk about my experience, but I got to know him because he wrote a book and I reached out to him, and he just has this incredible wealth of information, and I just wanted to keep learning from him. And over the past year or two, we touch base maybe once or twice a year. And as opportunities come up for me and for him, we just kind of collaborate, and we may not talk for 6 months, but then we catch back up. And he said, look, I'm doing some podcast stuff during COVID. And I know as an introverted woman in the South, I've got to figure out a way to control my own message, especially if I'm going to work for myself and put myself out there. And for many, many, many years, I've let other people control my narrative. And this is my way to be able to share my perspective of my story and my life. And it may not be the way other people received it, but I think it's really important to be able to share what my perspective is. And this is my way to be able to reach out and to be able to have conversations like this and to share, I think are important, because I think it also helps some younger females that are even in our community. I want them to see that you don't have to live by social media. And I want them to see that you can have the courage to stand up and have your own opinions. And if you want to see somebody who has their own opinions, feel free to, look at me, because I know I stand out, and it's not always in a favorable way. I don't just say yes to say yes. I have a different point of view a lot of times. And
that's
a lot
okay.
of, and a lot of people that they don't want to hear it. So sometimes I just have to preface it with, do you want to hear? And sometimes they say no. And then I know that this relationship has gone as far as it can go. But then some people are, let's keep talking and doing that. So, I don't know where they are. I think, I hate for everybody to be lost on Instagram, or I hate everybody to be lost on different social media platforms. You've got to figure out where you can give and be able to pay it forward and be able to tell your own story. So I think it's awesome. I don't know if that's going to come across or not in the future, but I see women doing it, and they're stepping up and being able to share what they've learned. And I think it's really important.
Yeah. And if you're listening and you want to be on this podcast, please reach out to me, because that's what you did, Catherine, right? I believe it's been, you reached out to me. Yeah. So that's why we're here. And it's awesome that you're here. Tell me, I actually was on a podcast myself the other day, and we got into the concept of leadership. And this gentleman gave me his opinion on what you need to be a leader. But it was more focused on young people. So for the young people listening to this right now, if they want to be in a management position, they want to be in a leadership position, what skills, pick like 3 skills you think they really need to start working on right away that would help them get there?
Okay, so 3 skills to think about when you're starting out in management and you want to have a successful career. Actually, I just did this for Clemson University. I spoke with some students that are about to graduate from the business school, and what I shared with them was 3 things: was to show up and be present. And I know that sounds so small, but put down your cell phone, have a conversation eyeball to eyeball with people, figure out how to connect with people. So show up and be present, and don't have all the distractions that are going on. Clear off the desk, turn off the monitor, flip over the phone, but just be with someone and listen to what they have to say. You're going to learn so much if you just tune in to what it is that they're talking about. And don't forget to reiterate what you heard from them, and make sure that that's what they said. So there's gold in that. The second one is following up. A lot of people, they say they're going to follow up, and I do some coaching, and I don't think everybody understands how to follow up correctly. And I'm not saying
1,000%. I really do.
People are missing something, and they're like, well, I sent them a text a week ago. I said, well, if you sent me a text a week ago, I wasn't going to answer it. I mean, that's not my job to give you feedback. You need to be proactive and reach out to me. So, so back in banking, banking 101, you have the 222 process. I don't know if you've heard, I'm sure you've heard of it.
What is that?
So you want to follow up 2 days after the meeting, and you want to recap what it was that you discussed, and just put a couple bullet points together, whatever your takeaway is. And then you want to follow up again at 2 weeks. And at 2 weeks, you just want to give a status update. What's changed? Are you still working on something? Is there closure? Maybe drop a hint about something else that you could help them with. And then the last 2 is 2 months, and follow back up in 2 months. Touch base, and again, reiterate that you appreciate the conversation and that you've been able to accomplish XYZ. And it's that consistency of being there. But the third point, after you are present and you follow up consistently, you want to lead with value. And when you speak with people, and I know you know this in and out, but lead with value and not lead with what you want. And I couldn't emphasize that enough for the college students and even professionals. Lead with how you can help solve someone else's struggling moment, and don't lead with, I really want to get a job, or I really want to get an interview. Just lead with, what struggles are you having today? And what is one thing that I could take off your desk? Or what's one thing that you hate doing every day? Maybe we can figure out a way that I can connect you with somebody who actually likes doing that kind of work. Wow. So if I had to summarize it, it's, it's showing up, being present, it's following up correctly, and then leading with value.
That's so, like, you just flipped the switch on an interview right there. Instead of, sitting there talking about yourself and saying, this is the values I can bring to the company. You basically say, how can I help you? What do you need help with? And how can I take that off your plate, or find someone to do that for you? That's it's flipping the switch in sales too. It's leading with the problem you solve rather than the product. It's the same concept. That's really cool. So one of the things that I have been telling my children, I'm the father of 2 daughters, and I've got a son as well. And I'm like, 2 things, this is just my opinion, but I don't think it's very unique, but I think 2 things you really need to have, or that will really help you maybe separate yourself from other people, is public speaking skills and writing skills. I think if you can work on that, like you said, you had to give a talk in front of the entire student body. You were nervous, but I guarantee you that helped you with the next time. So whenever you can, this is my opinion, get in front of people and talk. You're used to talking on a TikTok camera or your cell phone, but it's a lot different when you have to stand on a stage. So would you agree with that?
Totally. And so when you look at leaders, I think when I look at leaders, and I sat in enough leadership meetings, I realized the CEO said the same speech over and over and over. But that's consistency, and that's leadership, and that's being able to deliver the same message to all these people. And it's storytelling, and it's being able to tell the story to be able to engage the audience and let them know how they're going to help create this change. I'm sure you're familiar with story brands. You know, we don't want to be the hero for everything. We're just a guide. Like, I just help leaders get better in their careers. I just help board members be able to have a more successful planning session, just because I'm just listening to what they have to say, and I'm helping, you know, recap that information. And so speaking is going to be really important, and it ties back into listening and hearing what people are saying. And it means put the phone down. It means pay attention to what they're saying, write down a couple of notes. And if you can just recap what it was that you heard, it's going to be really important, because they may hear something that they didn't realize got transmitted, or they may realize that they need to tweak a little bit about what they've been talking about. And so it not just helps you understand, but it also helps them understand that they're communicating clearly. And earlier this morning, I was doing some leadership coaching with a general manager, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I had the best meeting with the owner. And then I just realized I didn't reiterate at the back end that these are the things that I'm working on. Like, here are the 3 stories, case studies of how I'm driving this business forward." And she said, "I totally should have recapped at the end. And this is the leadership behavior that I'm working on," because that's what she wants to get recognized for, is the key leadership behavior, not all these little individual tasks and conversations.
Right.
So by the end of the call, we said, just like story writing, you know, back in middle school, you open up with your paragraph. This is what I'm going to tell you. Here are my 3 bullet points, and then I'm closing it out. And this is what I just told you. Yep. So it sounds so simple, but we get so busy, we forget to do it. So you're totally right. Communication, speaking, writing, it is golden, and it is it's a dying art.
It really is. And you know, it's so many things are simple when you actually think about it. And so many things are not done. Like, I think, for me, I think sales training is not rocket science. It's really not. I mean, there's certain things you can do as far as human behavior and how you deal with persuasion and social proof and all those different things. But we're not splitting an atom here. And it's amazing. 2 things happen. Like, people complicate the crap out of it. They make, they turn a salesperson into, like, paralyzed by remembering 60 things that they got to say in front of this customer. And when it's really just about human connection, it just fall back to human connection and you're going to be okay. But you're right. The communication is a dying art for sure. So
it's yeah. Like, when we first met, and I'm looking at your background, I'm like, I'm dying to, like, zoom in to see the different pictures and the books that you're reading, because I want to be able to connect, because I'm convinced that you've got something there that I can probably relate to, and that helps bridge the conversation. Yeah. Otherwise, we're kind of starting at this cold, and we need some kind of soft, introduction. And we do have a bourbon, but sometimes you need a little something more to talk about.
Yeah. And here's a great little example of the younger now I'm talking about the real younger generation. Not like, so my daughter's 12, and her and I, this is sort of a little side thing, but her and I started a nonprofit to help animals. So a friend of mine who does a LinkedIn Live wanted to have her on the show to talk about this. So anytime she spoke to a person one-on-one about the nonprofit, she was always very nervous. She always said to me, "Can you explain it better than me?" When she got in front of this computer right here to talk LinkedIn Live, she was like Ellen. She was just like, boom. And I was like, because I was a little worried, like, oh, she's going to be really nervous. And I realized she's made 1,000 TikTok videos in her life, and she's so used to being in front of the camera. But that's going to be a disservice when she actually has to sit in front of an interview, or when she actually has to go and talk to someone. So yes, it's important to know how you are in front of a camera. You really have to learn communication skills, one-on-one communication skills as well.
Yeah, I have an 8-year-old son, and he's part of my husband's business, and they do TV commercials. And so he has the cute line at the end, and he's got the line down, that's perfect. That's just a camera with a green screen.
Yep.
However, when we go out to dinner and we want them to order food and look at the waiter or waitress in the eyes and tell them what you want to drink and how do you want your meal, it's a stretch. So we're working on it. We're pushing him out there. Poor thing. He's probably like, just, what I want. Order it, Mom.
Just
I'm like,
order it
no,
for me."
you have to do this. So yeah,
awesome.
They're comfortable with the screen for sure.
So how do you, so you're doing your thing now, you've got your own coaching business or leadership coaching business. How do you get clients now? Is it word of mouth, or do you do some prospecting? Or, because a big question I always get is, how do I get more clients as a coach?
Yeah, I think my network has been very good. I reached out to a lot of people during the transition. I also kind of let some time be there, as I left banking, just to kind of not feel like, people thought I was going to be poaching back on customers or anything. Mm-hmm. So I just kind of let some space be there. And I just had lunch with people and had conversations. I wanted to understand what they had on the radar and let them realize that if they ever needed anything, that I'm familiar with their business, and I'd be happy and honored to be able to help in any way. And if they have projects or things that, things they don't want to handle, one-off projects, call me and maybe we can work something out. My network has been good. I spoke with a lady earlier today, and she was asking me the same thing. And I just don't think my future is going to be with, Facebook ads and Instagram ads. I think it works great for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. I also think that if I continue to help people the way I've always helped people, I'll be just fine. So I know that's probably a very simple, boring answer, but you really got to get off the couch. You got to make phone calls. You got to send cards. You got to talk to people, and that's work. And I guess it sounds easy. Oh, I ran XYZ Facebook ads and the Facebook is going to do it for me, and I'm going to get the ads, and it's just people are going to start calling. Nobody calls. You got to call people. You got to follow up. You got to provide value. You got to help other people first.
I saw a couple of statistics that just popped in my head while you were talking about that. One, I think I saw yesterday, like 87% of Facebook ads are completely, they don't even generate one lead, like 87%. Imagine that. That would be quite a business to actually sell something that doesn't do anything for anybody and you keep selling it. Facebook is brilliant that way. The other thing I saw, this is a couple of weeks ago, but this in your wheelhouse. It was about job retention. It was about turnover rate in the sales world. And the number one reason given, there was like the top 5 reasons salespeople leave. The number one reason given was management, was poor management. Yeah. What do you attribute that to? Do you think, and I think this is, maybe especially in sales, do you think people are being promoted when they're not ready or they're not capable of being a leader? Why do you think there's so many poor leaders out there?
I think there's poor managers. I don't know if there's always poor leaders. I think we have a lot of managers who aren't truly being the leader that we need them to be. Maybe we bog them down with the TPS reports, and they're so busy just trying to get the numbers up to the next level that they've missed the part that they need to help the next level and below them, help them grow. Because when you've got that stronger team working for you, really delegate these reports that you don't want to do as a manager and empower this next generation to come along. So, and it can be scary because where do they move if this person that's just coming out of college gets their job? Where do they go? And I think they're missing the point. Is if we can continue to grow other people, we're going to grow the business, and then that's going to open up more opportunities for everyone. And it's scary. A lot of people, they say they like change, but they don't really embrace change, and it's hard. So when you find that unique leader and unique organization where they continue to promote growth and they truly live it, and they want to improve their team that they have and improve the support structure that they have, and they want to retain the top talent, that's where a lot of that leadership coaching comes in. The process that we use, it allows these high potentials to get regular feedback, but it's not something that the stakeholders have to necessarily do. It's the leader, it's the person, the high potential. It's their responsibility to reach out to others and ask for positive future focused feedback of how I can do something better. And they learn a lot when they go through it, because you don't just send a text message and say, hey, how could I run the meeting better? You're not going to get good dialogue. You're going to have to figure out how to communicate effectively with different people. And these do not need to be huge structured meetings. You learn that change happens through hallway conversations. And this is a way that you can change your own career for the better, by being used to having these conversations in a different, casual yet effective way.
So this is a great segue. I actually thought about this, and I'm proud of myself. This is a great segue into our question of the week, or the Ask Alan segment. This is from Brittany in Washington State, so completely on the other side of the country from me and from us. Brittany asked, and again, I get a bunch of questions, and this one was perfect for Catherine. She asked, how do I show my management team that I am ready to move up to the next level? How would you answer that, Catherine, to Brittany? I know it's a pretty broad question, but
no. So we can take this a lot of different ways. From personal experience, I thought I was ready to move up within an organization, and they were comfortable having me where I was. And so you might, take into consideration their perspective. You may be ready, and they may be happy having you there, and not wanting to do anything else. So if that's the case, are you happy enough to stay where you are, just to kind of wait it out, like maybe the rest of the other people that have been there before? Another way to be more proactive about it is definitely to be able to have those conversations. The research shows that men are definitely more likely to wear that carpet out between their office and the manager's office, to let the manager know that I'm ready to move up, or I've got a baby on the way, or I want to buy that new car. I've got college debt. I really need to get a raise. And what's happening is the manager's hearing that Joe's ready before Sue, because Joe's in the manager's ear a lot. And when you get this bonus at the end of the year, and you only get so much to give out to your team members, but if Joe's in there 5 times a year saying, I really need it for the baby, the car, the college tuition, whatever it is, chances are when it gets split up, Joe's going to get just a little bit extra than the person who's not doing that. And what happens is it compounds over time, and it creates pay gaps. And I've also been part of a pay gap opportunity that worked out great for me, because they realized I was severely undercompensated and got me fixed up in a hurry. But you've got to watch out for yourself. And so watch what other people are doing around you that are getting promoted and moved up and given new opportunities. Another thing, just because I'm assuming Brittany is a female, is the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is extremely important. And women tend to have mentors, women tend to have mentors, men have sponsors. And sponsors are going to be way more important. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if I didn't have a bunch of sponsors who believed in me. The difference is the sponsor behind closed doors, when they're doing HR strategy sessions, the sponsor has my back. And they may not know, hey, Catherine's never run a XYZ team before, but she's got potential. And I'm willing to stick my neck out for Catherine. Do you have these sponsors within the organization that have your back when it comes to planning? And a lot of times women, they have lots of mentors. How do I run past this problem? How do I navigate this? But you need sponsors more than you need a mentor. And the sponsor is going to have your back behind closed doors when they start planning for the next project. So start figuring out who is a sponsor who can help you. And you don't want to go and say, hey, I want you to be my sponsor. It doesn't work that way. You begin to have sponsors, but you don't want to, and I've made this mistake. I had one sponsor, loved him. It was awesome. And then he left. I was too tied to one sponsor. So then it tainted my career because that person left. So make sure that you have multiple sponsors. Sometimes you have one in HR. Sometimes you have one in procurement. Sometimes you got one in legal, and sometimes you got one in sales. Really, you have one in all these places, because when it comes to planning, the person at the top is going to go check with these different teams to see how well you play with others. And so if you can have a sponsor within those, that's another way to create influence within the organization, letting them know that you're ready. There's lots of tricks, but those are a few things to take into consideration.
Here's the one way. Now, this is not my area of expertise. I'm not a leadership coach, but I've been in plenty of organizations. And I think one of the things, especially in the world of sales, that I have seen over the years, and Simon Sinek talks about this a lot, is people becoming managers. Like, just because you're a really good salesperson doesn't mean you're going to be a good manager. And that's the big mistake I think companies make, is like, wow, let's take our top sales guy or girl and make them the manager, because they can teach everyone else how to be the top salesperson. And more often than not, that's not true. They're good at what they do, but they're not good at teaching what they do.
Yeah.
So if, for me, I would tell Brittany, and I've told other people this, like, if you're ready to be in that management position, take a close look at that management position and make sure that's where you want to be. Like, do you actually want to be? I was asked many times when I was selling to be a manager, and I never, ever wanted to be a sales manager, because I can teach. I'll be a sales teacher for you all day long, but I'm not going to sit there and freaking assign leads and talk to angry customer. That's not me. I'm not going to do that. So I always turned it down. So Brittany, make sure you want to be a manager in your organization first, and you really want to do that role, and then follow what Catherine is talking about.
I totally agree. Look at the job description and see how does that job description differentiate between what you're doing right now, and truly think, there is a huge amount of reporting that comes and paperwork that comes when you hit the manager role, which it sounds glamorous because it's like this next level of perceived success. There's a chance you can get a pay cut when you get out of the sales position. So now you're doing
100%.
more work and you're making less money, and you're like, whoa, I don't know about this.
Oh, so true. So true. Like, back in the in-home selling days, you would get your appointments at 10 o'clock at night. There's a sales manager on a Sunday night assigning 67 leads. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's no way I want part of that. So yeah, think long and hard. If there are people made out for that, but there's certain people that are not. So anyway,
I think we both like the sales side, so we might be tainting your answer towards keep selling and making money and have your flexibility.
Absolutely. So anyway, Catherine, this has been amazing. We're already, at the 40-minute mark, and this has been awesome. Time flies all the time when I'm doing these podcasts, but I really appreciate you being on and kind of giving a different slant to this podcast today, because we don't talk about leadership and management a lot. So thank you for that. And again, I thank Brittany for the question, but I always end with this. You've got solopreneurs, you've got entrepreneurs, you've got business owners, you've got a lot of different people listening to this podcast, but they're in the business world. If you had to give them one piece of advice, one little tidbit to end this podcast, what would you say to them right now? Sorry to put you on the spot. I'm going to take
this a different way, and I'm going to say, give her a chance.
Oh, I love that.
It could be your wife. It could be your daughter. It could be a coworker, but give her a chance.
And on that note, folks, Catherine Cantey, I thank you for your time. You've been awesome. One more cheers with your Angel and the bourbon. And I'm going to take a sip. And I want to thank Catherine for being here. I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today on episode 36 of Marketing and Sales Over Cocktails. Remember, marketingandsalespodcast.com is the website. Send me a question through the website for the Ask Alan segment. And just like Brittany, if we read your question, you are going to get a free signed copy of my book mailed right to you. So once again, Catherine, thank you. Enjoy South Carolina. And everyone, thank you for joining us. And we will see you again next time.